Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client, and like we did today, we install a D-box system, we install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
No one is without weakness, and in the case of Liberante, his pit stops seem to be an area in need. However, undaunted, the championship leader fought back last round and repassed Trepanier for the lead, eventually taking the victory. Can he continue to use his strengths to overcome his shortcomings? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 6 of the PRL GT3 Amateur Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Spa gave us some messy moments in the pro category last night. It's a big track, but will we see more tangling tonight? Let's head to our track guide to learn more about the circuit. Welcome to Spa-Francorchamps. Less than an hour's drive east from the German border, this Belgian track has come to define racing for many different eras in the sport. It's no wonder it continues to entrance drivers when you look at the stats. The 7 kilometers over the course of a lap includes more than 330 feet in elevation change as it weaves its way through the Ardennes forest. Packed into this is 19 turns, some of which are considered among the most famous in the world of racing. Corners like La Source and Blanchement have been on the lips of drivers for decades. But by far the most notorious is Eau Rouge and Rétillon. Typically referred to in name by just the first section, it dips low and swings left, then compresses and climbs to the right up a massive hill. The sequence ends with a completely blind crest that sweeps to the left and leads onto the incredibly long Kemmel Straight. The bravery required to be fast through there will pay off towards one of the most popular passing spots at Lacombe. Eau Rouge is exemplary of the rest of the circuit though. Most of the turns are incredibly fast, and many include much of that signature elevation change. As jaw-dropping as the track is, you have to remember that this is the modern truncated layout. The old one, raced until 1979, was 14 kilometers in length, yet carried an average speed of 150 miles per hour. Present-day safety measures do cut down on the danger, but even in recent history, the circuit has proven deadly. It's clear why this track continues to be revered and respected by racers the world round. DJ, we saw last night just how powerful the slipstream can be at this place. Do you think it's going to affect the AMs as much as it did the pros?
Oh, I most certainly think it will, Joe. The run from La Source all the way up to Lacombe, obviously mixed up there by that run through Eau Rouge and Radion, is going to be absolutely paramount, both in the qualifying, which cars are going out for right now, and during the race. We also saw a good amount of that draft coming into play, coming out of Stavelot and down into the bus stop chicane. The real question is going to be, though, is if anybody chose to do a little bit of a tweaked downforce setup and maybe go for a higher downforce set through the middle sector to try to get some good speed through that area. With the different car makeups that we're seeing today, I think it is still going to be a fantastic race, though, and it could be anybody's game.
No doubt about that. The question is, will we see Liberante come back for a third win, especially after last week's impressive showing? But before we get to that, our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it for free today at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL GT3 Am Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. After last round at Imola, Race Liberante finds himself extending his gap to the rest of those behind him. Most critically to Demers, who he definitely solidly beat, and extends it to about 12 points, a similar distance back there to Nick McLaughlin, with Flanagan sitting in fourth. Trepanier, who is the one that got beat to the victory, is now tied for fifth with Almanar. Still only 40 points splitting those top six really, drivers in our championship. We'll see if that changes here in the second half. What about the team's championship?
Well, Joe, it's a relatively tight battle at the top, with NTR Motorsports only 17 points ahead of RF Delta Sport. But from there, it's a huge gap on back to Apex Button Box, who's 87 points back of NTR. A little bit of a tight battle, though, between them and Parabola Racing Cobalt and SDS Racing Team. So we'll have to keep an eye on that battle for third, as well as that battle for the top step of the team's podium.
If you watched last night, this format's going to seem familiar, but we have the same cars as we did last time and the same distance. So this is pretty much the same thing, except we have different drivers. It's round 6, and same thing as before about the incident limit. Now, a few did get caught out by that. This track is notorious for that. Even though they've loosened the limit somewhat, it is now based on the 4 wheels off like they do in Formula 1 in a number of places. But they still can't abuse those limits too much. But that bonus point for pole is going to be interesting to watch, especially with the slipstream available to drivers. We'll see who is able to capitalize on that, maybe get a few tenths, a few hundredths to try and grab those bonus points. Luke was our first one to set a time. We're watching a bunch of our drivers just coming across now, and they will be setting the time out of the bus stop. That's where the timing line is for qualifying, but they will start on the way down, with this being the endurance layout. Looks like Antonino gets close, but still nobody able to top the 709.
No, Luke's holding that pretty well for now as Desjardins is starting a flying lap here. I see Neil Alexander coming in ninth place. Everybody just getting through there. You can see Desjardins coming over that crest of Radillon. That's a very important corner to get through, especially with the draft. You got to keep the car nice and straight there.
Another thing to be concerned about, we're past 5 minutes in this qualifying. It's only a 10-minute qualifying. Race Liberante just missed his first lap. He had the time removed because he went outside the track boundaries. He's not got much time to try and set a fast one here. He's got maybe, what, 2, 3 more attempts?
Yeah, it's not a lot here, Joe. Lawson Christie there, you see crossing the line coming into 13th. You've got to get these laps down quickly because it is such a long circuit out here.
I see Christie getting one in, which you just mentioned. Sumner misses. My goodness, there's a lot of drivers that have just run afoul of the track limits. Almanar is up next. He and Espina behind him look to be working together. I actually saw them in the warm-up running laps line astern like this. I feel like this is a bit of Ferrari tactics that we're seeing here.
Well, remember, that Ferrari is more of the well-balanced car, and there it's paying off for Jonathan Almanar, came up to P2 right there. But remember that Ferrari is a well-balanced car all the way around, not necessarily the highest top speed, so they may need that to get ahead as we watch Eric Luke seeing if he can best his provisionally best time.
Still holds it by about 0.3 of a second over Almanar as the 709 comes around the bus stop into the timing line, goes pretty wide, but I believe that was within the boundaries, and that counted. It's a 2:16.8, knocks another couple tenths off of his time. Who's got something behind him? See Barrett coming across. Looks like that one's not going to account for him, as Desjardins does put one down to 2:18.6, is going to put him in the mid-pack.
Not going to be pleased with that. Antonino there. Looks like that lap didn't count for him, so he'll stay in fourth right now. Here comes Brian Vorse to the line. Does Vorse have anything better? He doesn't, about 2 tenths off. More drivers coming across here. Neil Alexander, marginally better able to improve his time. And here comes Semkowicz.
Demers still starting his first flying lap here as Semkowicz, 2:20.8 puts him in 21st. That's way down the order. Liberante, did he miss the? Yeah, he missed the second one as well. Pressure is very much on then. Yeah, I believe he'll get 2 more laps because the quick drivers are doing about 2:17s down to even 1 in the 2:16s. But if he messes up, if he has an accident, he's done.
Yeah, and there you see McLaughlin pulling off, but he got pipped up there to P2. Little bit of confusion there with Todd Lewis, unable to set a time, it looks like. Waiting for some more drivers to come across there. Baron Hilton's time's going to get him 22nd. Sumner bumps his way up to 18th. DeWeese unable to improve on that lap.
We are still waiting on about 8 or 9 drivers to set a lap time around here. Espina, let's see, last time he was a little bit slower than his teammate. This time he's the one ahead, so maybe the one ahead got the slipstream on the first lap. 2:17.7, yes indeed. Espina moves his way up into 6th place as Almanar had an off track, and he's going to abandon any further laps. So 3rd place is the highest. We'll see that 02 car.
Indeed, but with as powerful as the draft is, as long as he doesn't lose touch with the drivers in front, he should be relatively okay. So we watch Matt Hilton there in that SRT eSports BMW coming through Blanchimont, breaking down for the heavy braking zone into bus stop. We saw a fair few fights. Hilton's going to call it off, so that's going to be it for him today.
Interesting. So starting from 10th as we watch Brett Barrett and just not quicker. Can we go to the 2:56 of Demers, because he's yet to set a time as well. And remember, he's currently sitting 2nd in the championship. If he starts from the very back, that'll be a huge blow to his championship hopes. Very difficult to climb through this many cars. Into the bus stop. If this one isn't clean, he'll get one last shot at it. Let's see.
Can he do it? He's got to be hoping. It would be a 2:18 if it sticks. It's not a great time there. That is only 8th place right now.
Simkovic down in 19th goes mildly faster. I should say mildly faster. It's actually 8/10 that he found on the lap that time. The 14 of Luna here coming around and across. Looks like a 2:18.4. That's a little bit better. He's having some connection issues though. As we take a look at Todd Lewis now, another one of our drivers who's going to have this last opportunity. Checkered flag is out. What's it going to be? Is it back of the grid for Todd? No, a 2:20.9. Actually, it will be the back of the grid. He's 27th.
Well, he's not going to be happy with that. Kwok Nin looks like he was unable to set a time there, so he's going to be starting from the back. Liberante did not get a lap in there, Joe.
Wow. Wow. Ooh, big implications. And you have to imagine that Demers is probably wishing he had a bit of a better qualifying, although at least he will not have to worry about his main rival for the first part of the race, most likely. Brett Barrett, who sits in 12th, is directly behind Demers. He could demote him yet one more position as he continues to try and finish his flying lap.
Indeed, he does. Let's see what the Ninja Trader eSports drivers got here. Coming around Blanchimont, you see just how much of that entrance and exit curbing he's taking, trying to take maximum advantage of this track is Brett Barrett. Hard braking into the bus stop. A little bit off of that apex, but that does set him up better for the second part of the chicane.
Can he go any quicker? He crosses the line. And the answer is no. Trepanier, who was fast last round, is only good enough for 5th today. Still within range. He could be fighting for that victory, depending on how things shake out for him. Muirhead, next one up to take the checkered flag, and he's not interested. He's going to come into pit lane. Miller, and Demers. Demers gets one last chance. Also decides he's going to abandon it, but Miller will continue on. A 20.5 will stay put as he does not improve, and that is everybody here in our qualifying. Oh my goodness, DJ. I know this is a track where you can pass at, but being behind 27th place for a couple of our drivers within the top 5 in points, this is going to be a long day.
It's going to make things very interesting, Joe, as these drivers are going to have to charge their way up through the field. Now, they do have the speed and the pace to do it. Those laps that we were seeing put down, obviously, were good laps, but just added out because they did not stay within track limits. The other thing they're going to have to watch out for is if there's a big incident like we saw last night, one of them could be collected as they make their way through the first lap.
Yeah, that's a fair point. There was some goings on throughout the field, and honestly, even the front runners had a few serious issues. One driver even flipping over on his lid in the midst of Lacombe. So you aren't safe if you are in the midst of everyone and having to battle pretty hard here as the last few seconds tick down. And qualifying, we'll get over to the grid here in just a moment, but you're watching round 6 of the PRL GT3 Am Series here at Spa-Francorchamps with Eric Luke going to be starting on the top step here when this race goes to green. Should be fun to watch. Looks like session ticks over. Let's go through that starting order as Eric Luke, as we mentioned, has the pole position, gets those bonus points. Nick McLaughlin will be starting next to him as Antonino will be 3rd. You've got Jonathan Almanar in the 4th position. Trepanier starting from P5, hoping for redemption after losing out on the win last week. Voris will be 6th as Espina starts 7th, Cervantes 8th, and Morales 9th. Matt Hilton rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, it's going to be Alexis Demers, followed by Brett Barrett and Johnny Luna and Marc-Andre Desjardins lining up in row 7. Row 8, it'll be Parker Muirhead, followed by Baron Glover with Jason Larson and Neil Alexander in 17th and 18th. And then to round out your top 20, it's Daniel Barnett and Spencer Semkowicz.
On the next slide, Sumner to the inside of that row with Christie starting 22nd, Bochelle and P23, followed by Miller. Drew DeWeese will start 25th. Baron Hilton will start in 26th. Todd Lewis was the last one able to set a time in 27th. Marini, Hotham, Nin, Kalen, Liberante, and Huard will all be gridded up at the back of the field. Gonna be fun times watching that. In the meantime, let's watch some of our onboards. We've got a few today. I believe we've got Nick here as one of ours. So there you see Nick McLaughlin joining us. Then, of course, we have Kwok Nin back once again with his interesting background going on. And also, Brian Vorse will be giving us a perspective this evening. Get to see over his shoulder to watch what his view is. And finally, Espina, who was working together with his teammate. Let's see if we can get any views of him trying to work together with him in the race, as he once again always loves to show us all the various onboards of his inputs, which will certainly be fascinating around a quick track like this with some of those swift corners. We saw last night that they had to wait for the green flag. DJ, could be a bit of a wait once this pace car goes away, but you have to wonder, when is Luke going to call it?
Yeah, that's going to be on him, and all those drivers are going to have to check up behind and keep an eye on that 709 BMW. Pace car dives off, so here we go. Field over to Eric Luke.
Waiting patiently. They have to wait until the green. Will he get it early on that downhill after La Source? Will it make him be very patient? Who's going to get the run coming down into Eau Rouge without having to deal with La Source as the first turn? Causes all kinds of different issues for our drivers. There you can see just how big the field is. And the green flag is out. Luke is on it. McLaughlin immediately slots into line. In fact, it's single file pretty much all the way down to 9th place. Look at them swinging into Eau Rouge for the first time. Most of them deciding they don't want to go side by side through there, and they head onto the Kemmel Straight.
They do indeed, and this is where that draft is going to come into play. Looks like a little bit of move there in the back with Espina and Vorse going side by side. But up front, it's relatively single file. That was Almanar maybe thinking about a move. Oh, that's somebody off.
Was that Almanar, actually? I think it was. No, that was his teammate. That was Espina. And he is going to get a big slowdown penalty out of that. He rejoined safely, thankfully. But the automatic penalty that he'll get from iRacing will not be kind.
Yeah, it's really going to set him back as now the drivers work their way down the hill. This is the first time I talked about those downforce settings. Who's got this car set up for the middle sector? Who can get a little bit of speed here as they work their way through Pujon? McLaughlin looks pretty set, but Antonino's got some speed behind him.
Not letting him get away. McLaughlin as well, still within half a second of Eric Luke. They come into Fanyes. This has actually been a little bit cleaner here on the first lap than what we saw with the pros. Knock on your favorite piece of wood. And we come now into Stavelo. They're going to get another long pull out of here towards the bus stop.
Indeed they are, and I've got my eyes pretty fixed back on that second place with John Antonino looking like he's got a good amount of speed in that Porsche, the highest running Porsche right now. Is he going to have a look at McLaughlin? They make their way through Blanchimont. Ooh, little bit of run wide there from Antonino. I don't think that's going to get him the setup he wanted.
No, he backs out of it, doesn't attack into the corner as we ride on board with the third place driver. In fact, not seeing any moves through much of the fields into that bus stop chicane. It's all pretty orderly.
Yeah, everybody playing it a little bit cautious here early on. I think they saw the scuffles going on in the pro race last night, maybe trying to take it a little bit more calm. That looked like, I believe that was one of the Ferraris. I think that was Almanar looking like he had a little bit of a problem coming out of La Source.
Yeah, in fact, he's under threat from Trepanier back there in 5th, so I could see a change of position between those two. Much better than Antonino got on McLaughlin, that's for sure. They come up the Kemmel Straight to Lacombe. A little bit of a look from Trepanier, but decides it's not going to be a serious attempt. He gets back into the racing line. Another driver with a slowdown penalty. Baron Glover must have cut it through Eau Rouge. He's falling down the order very quickly.
Yeah, and that's relatively easy to do. You just take a little bit too much of that inside curbing, and it can give you that slowdown. They work their way now through Radion. coming down through here, keeping focus on that battle between Trepignet and Almanar. Almanar looking like he's losing a little bit of ground as they make their way through No Name and down to Pujol.
Indeed. Oh, and Antonito's looking very strong. Why don't we check in with Nick McLaughlin, one of our onboards here today, because he's going to be looking every which way in those mirrors up ahead, trying to keep track of Antonito. Here we see through his rear wing, and there's his onboard, focused as ever.
Yeah, just absolutely focused ahead. We always talk and joke a little bit about how he likes to lean into those corners as he's making his way around. Not looking too much in the rearview mirror, so I've got to give him credit for that.
Chat away to somebody on his team, but he got a great exit out of Stavilo, and Almanar not nearly as close as he was down through Puan. And very, very wide. I think Antonito may have had another off track with that one. Those can rack up oh so quickly around this circuit into the bus stop chicane, and still no attempts from the 193. Almanar and Trepignet also quite close as Vincent has been stalking the O2.
Yeah, just keeping behind Eric Luke there, setting the fastest lap of the race as we continue to work our way around here. Not a whole lot of dive bombs, not a whole lot of craziness. Oh, a little bit of contact in the back, though. That's Espina and Luna almost coming together through La Source.
They're still side by side. They're going to have to get this sorted out soon. I don't think you want to go too wide up through Eau Rouge. Luna is the braver of the two as he pulls ahead, and Espina unfortunately not brave enough in that game of chicken. Here comes Desjardins as we look at the replay.
Gonna check out this replay here, and you can see Espina just gets a little bit of a better run there out of the bus stop. I think he was able to minimize some wheel spin as they were going along, pulls alongside, and then goes for a late move, it will be said, along Luna. I just don't think Luna fully anticipated him there. Almost a little bit of contact.
And I can tell you that Marc-Andre did not get that spot over Espina, so he was able to keep it from becoming two in one lap. Oh, did Trepignet lose? No, Trepignet. I thought he lost a spot for a second. No, he is still sitting in the same position. So no worries there. False alarm. Let's head back up to Liberante. Back to Liberante, really. How far has he climbed? Look like 17th now, after starting this race in 32nd.
Well, we said he was going to have some pace to move his way through the field, and that ahead of him is Parker Muirhead, so he's going to have his sights set on that Ferrari, working their way right now through Fagnes, seeing, you can see just how much more grip Liberante really has. Ooh, a little bit of a blink there from Muirhead, that's going to scare him.
Yeah, it looks like Muirhead knew that Liberante was coming. Wasn't going to try and hold him off too much. Let's go back to Almanar, because Trepignet is starting to put serious pressure on the O2. They're approaching one of the popular places to overtake, and he's going to try and get him alongside. He does get some overlap at the first apex. Could he pull the over-under? Nope, he's going to have to go around the outside of the second one and gets a great exit. Look at this.
Oh, indeed he does. They're side by side as they go down into La Source. That's going to be Trepignet having the preferred line, but I think that's going to be Almanar trying to carry a little bit more momentum. He's going to pick up a 1X there, I believe, going around the outside, and Brian Vorst behind them, Brian Vorst behind them, looking very hungry as this battle goes on.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of them are getting held up. It's now Cervantes and Demers' view as we watch from onboard Vorst, who gets a mighty run on Trepignet. Instead of gaining a position, the 87 might lose one here. There we see over his shoulder coming down into the Lacombe chicane, and deep on the brakes for Trepignet. Unfortunately, will deny Vorst for now.
Yeah, be able to hold that off for a little bit, but Trepignet still pushing ahead here on Almanar. This battle is nowhere near done.
Wow, this train is getting more and more stacked up. Demers, I mentioned, they also have Matt Hilton, Brett Barrett, and Rodrigo Morales also a part of it. So the more that we see a defense here from those up at the front, I have a feeling the more friends they're going to have joining them.
Yeah, this complete battle really bringing the rest of the field into play here as we ride on board. You can see a little bit of counter steering there as they went into Fagnes.
Try not to lose it. Still, Almadar holds off all comers. Let's see if he can still do that. Coming up into the bus stop chicane. Last time, it was a good enough of a run for Trepanier to at least have a go at it, but he couldn't complete the pass. This time, he's got Brian Vorse relatively close behind him. The 33 following up towards Blanchimont. They've got to withstand the dirty air of the cars ahead and try and get close. And Trepanier doing very good at that. Vorse not so much. Here we go. It's a much better run and much better under braking as well from Vincent. He's farther along. Can he complete the pass? He goes a little wide here, has to pinch the exit, but I think he's got it done.
Yes, indeed, he does. And Vorse looking a little bit hungry as well, but he's got to watch out for Cervantes behind him in that Porsche. Oh, that's Vorse looking down the outside, on the inside of Almanar there, but that's going to compromise him around the corner. Is that going to lead for an opportunity for Cervantes as they get ready to head up the hill of Eau Rouge?
But Danny says, yes, it is. I want this spot. Sizing up 6th place as Brian Vorse is right in front of him. Up and over Radion. Who's going to get the exit they need? All of them trying desperately to hold the grip as it crests. And it's a pretty good one for Danny. Is this going to be enough?
It might be behind them. It looks like Demers is getting passed. I think he had another slowdown there. There they go. That's going to be Cervantes trying to make the move. He tries to hold it around the outside through the second part of Malmedy. Now he's got the preferred line. They're still side by side, Joe.
Cervantes still going to have the inside, but he's got less pace. He's going to have to send it in deep into Ravage, which he does, and holds onto that wheel-to-wheel action, almost drifts out, has to lift on the throttle, and Vorse will retain that 6th spot.
He will indeed, and that's going to leave Matt Hilton maybe thinking about a little bit of an opportunity here as well. We said all this battling was going to bring the rest of the field back up to him, and indeed it has. Looks like Hilton's falling off a little bit, though, through Pujol.
Yeah, it looks like it might go back to Cervantes here, if he can get a good run on the black number 33 just in front of him. It's BMW versus Porsche into Stavilo. Focusing on their exit here. Swift right-hander for the second half of the turn. It's not looking good for Cervantes. Once again, Matt Hilton. And look how big he is in the rearview screen.
Absolutely filling up that rear view mirror of Cervantes. Is Hilton going to have the run? It looked like he lost a little bit of pace there in that little middle corner before Blanchimont, and now it shifts back to Cervantes. Does Cervantes have the guts to make a run into the bus stop? No, he's going to hold back.
Ebb and flow throughout this circuit. I think that was a slip up from Vorse. Oh, and another one. Lost traction coming off of the final chicane. Here comes Cervantes. At times he's on the attack, at times he's on the defense. He's going to have to play both fields here, and as he comes around La Source, he looks like he actually has it for good now.
He does indeed. That is Cervantes ahead, but Brian Vorse not letting him go quietly. Has to back off a little bit, doesn't want to get too close up through Eau Rouge. That'll really mess up the aero.
Yeah, he has to back off somewhat. And he will get another slipstream as they climb up the Kimmel Straight, defending to the inside. The 25 trying to hold him off. Trepanier doing the same with Almanar. No, actually, Trepanier must have just gotten passed recently.
Yeah, I think Trepanier did get passed on the straight there. So he is now up into that 4th position, trying to chase down Antonino in front, but that's a pretty big gap.
It's about 9 seconds up to Eric Luke for Trepanier right now. Tied for 5th in the points currently with Almanar. But the good news is he's ahead of Almanar now that he made that pass. I think Lautaro Marini headed to the pits. I'm not sure if that is scheduled. It is within the pit window, but it's a very early stop for him. We'll check on that in a bit. Trepanier actually putting a bit of distance between himself and the O2.
Yeah, starting to get a little bit of a gap there, and that may be the Trepanier is trimmed down a little bit more. That may be part of it. He's going to swing that car there through the final corners of Campus and Stavolo. Let's see if he's able to hold that gap over Almanar now that he's got some clean air in front of him.
We were watching Liberante earlier. Well, he's already up to 15th, and he might get some more because he's looking over the rear wing of Desjardins. And Marc-Andre does not cover the inside, but looks like Liberante doesn't want to go too wide through Blanchimont. Fantastic run out of there, though. And once again, no covering off the defensive line. Marc-Andre doesn't quite let him through, makes some work for it, but he slips ahead with inches to spare as he chops him off at that second apex. Move him into 14th now.
Yeah, move him on up. So Liberante's charge through the field continues as we have been documenting. It's going to be interesting to see how far he can go. Also wonder if he'll maybe try to adopt some sort of alternate pit strategy to try to get himself forward.
Yeah, hard to say. Let's ride on board with him for a bit. Next up is Demers. And Demers, wow. How did Demers get down to 13th? Oh, he had the slowdown penalty, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Coming up over Eau Rouge, dropped him all the way back there, Joe. And so now Liberante's got him at his sights. These are two guys that we've seen race a little bit before. It'll be interesting to see what he does. And Demers is being held up a little bit, it looks like, by Espina in front. Look how much Liberante was able to close there through Lacombe.
Alexis only down 2 spots from where he started. So if he hadn't had that slowdown penalty, he'd be in a much better position here, as qualifying certainly has hurt him, though. He could have been much farther up the order and a little more ways from his main championship rival, who he's only 12 points back from. So wants every point he can get, but right now it's looking like the pace of that 34 is good enough that I think Alexis is going to lose this spot pretty soon.
I think he is too. That 34 just absolutely looks electric out here today. Yeah, look at the alternate line there. He's taking through Fagn. He's just trying to get a little bit of clean air on the front nose of that BMW. Joe, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets this pass done before the time they get to the bus stop.
He closed down that gap pretty quick, so yeah, I think you're right. An update on Marini was not a scheduled stop. It's minute 18 that he had in there. Don't need to go to it, but Muirhead had an incident, ran into the spinning Baron Glover. Both of them back running once again, as Liberante a little too far back maybe. Oh, he's gaining. He's going to think about it. He shows his nose. Demers doesn't cover him off, and they're going to go side by side as in front of them. That's Morales heading into the pits. And it looks like Demers will able to successfully defend Liberante, but the two of them do gain a spot because of Rodrigo coming in for service. Oh, late move.
Very late move for Liberante there, and a successful one at that. Look at him get by. Latest of the late breakers there for Race Liberante. Move him up to 12th.
Almost looked like Alexis really wasn't all that interested in defending either. Neither time did he try to push to the inside and force him to go the hard way around. Maybe he just wants to sit behind, ride the slipstream of that 34. We'll find out soon enough. They still got just about half the race left to go, so plenty of chance to try and save some fuel behind him, gain some speed if he wants to. It's such a long pit lane, by the way. Morales still has not hit his pit stall.
Oh, that's Hilton. That's Hilton around, and that's a big pile up.
Vorse and somebody going off, having to try and avoid them. Looks like Brett Barrett. So 3 cars affected by that incident, unfortunately. Let's look at the replay.
Yeah, let's check that out. So this is that battle with Vorse and Hilton. Just a little bit of a nudge there through Malmedy, I think. Maybe a little bit of an aggressive move from the 33. But both drivers ending up the worse for wear.
What's interesting about it is Vorse was the one being passed by Hilton, and he was trying to the over-under, but the under part didn't quite have enough space to it, so that's what sent them both around. We see Matt Hilton returning in 14th, Vorse behind him by some margin in 15th. Now, Espina is the next one for Liberante. And this is all the way up in 8th place. Holy cow, Liberante's just gobbling him up. He's very close to the back of that orange and blue number 20, but he drops back coming off of Blanchimont.
Yeah, not going to make the move there, holding back a little bit. Look at this train that's really starting to form here, Joe.
We've seen a few of these today. Also, I just noticed Morales actually never stopped in his pit stall. So there's our first example of a driver serving a drive-through penalty. Morales gets 4 more, and he is actually going to wind up with a DQ. Parker Muirhead had an incident off of Blanchimont, hit the inside wall. Not sure what the damage looks like. We'll try and update on that later.
Yeah, we'll check that out, but we've got to keep our eyes focused on this battle right here. A little bit of a run wide there, and here come the draft trains.
Who's going to take a look? Looks like Liberante wants a little something on Espina. He's able to get inside him, and he's able to complete the pass as well.
Yes, he is. That Ferrari not looking like it has the match for the 34 of RaceLab Apps as he continues to carve his way up the field. Next up, Johnny Luna ahead of him. Let's see if he's got anything for Luna.
Apologies again. Morales did take a stop. He his time in, or my time in scoring rather, did not show him in his pit box, so not sure what the bug is there as we watch this train come down into Pujon. Johnny Luna just ahead of Liberante, and Liberante is very quick in the corners here, gathers him up, looks to the outside. Now he's starting to get some defense from drivers. Johnny says, you're going to have to work hard for this one. The 34 tries to pull the over-under here, and he's got a great shot. He's got an opening down to the inside. Luna leaves the door open, but just barely, and he's shoved aside. Espina going to be able to slip through, as well as Barrett. No, Barrett has to back out.
So that's going to hold them back there, but Race Liberante to not be denied here. Now, his only problem is he's got about 6.5 seconds up the road to Danny Cervantes, so he's going to have some time to make up here, but this battle behind still looking a little bit feisty.
Yeah, and even worse than that, it's 20 seconds to get up to the overall leader, Eric Luke. Now, Luke is not his concern. McLaughlin is, because he's 3rd in the championship. Nick currently up in 2nd, and I believe Almanar is up ahead of him as well. In fact, he's right ahead of Cervantes. So Liberante, once he catches Cervantes, chances are good he can maybe try and run down Almanar, especially considering the O2 looks to be a little distracted with Trepanier still.
Yeah, not exactly out of his sights yet. Also, Johnny Luna diving into the pits, so a little bit of interesting thing there. Ooh, that's Trepanier going defensive. This is Almanar trying to make that move. Not gonna happen, though.
Nope, just not willing to risk it quite yet. Did give a little bit of a scare to Trepanier for a brief moment. Nothing doing for that Ferrari in the meantime. Getting some more pitters. Johnny Luna, Jason Larson, I see Bochelle in, Muirhead. Muirhead, I think, though, probably for some of his damage.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Just getting a little bit of that banged out on the body of this car as we do tick down just over 18 minutes to go here in this race. So we are starting to get into that pit window. Remember, though, we tend to see a lot of these guys pitting at the same time. So don't be surprised, especially on a long lap, if most of the leaders all come in together.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that we'll see them in about 3 or 4 laps here. Remember, those lap times are 2+ minutes. That will take us to about 10 minutes left to go. Down in 12th place, we were watching them earlier. They're still fighting, this time without Liberante. Marc-Andre, followed by Brian Vorse, Kwok Nin, and then Matt Hilton.
Yeah, we're going to jump on board here with Kwok Nin as he rides his way around behind Brian Vorse. Now remember, Vorse was involved in that incident with Hilton. There you see him as he tries to eye it. Ooh, that looked like Vorse caught a little bit of that inside curve. May have shoved that BMW off wide.
Yeah, he's fallen back, certainly, from Marc-Andre. And it looks like Nin is gaining ground as we watch his onboard VR driver, able to look down to the apex of some of these sharper corners, such as the bus stop chicane. All of them slamming on the binders, but it looks like the 239 wasn't there.
Yeah, didn't quite have it there for him. Not able to quite get it done, but he'll get another bite at the apple.
Highest driver to have pitted right now is Morales, but Luna is actually right behind him. So those two in a bit of a pair together as we continue to watch this very close battle coming down towards Eau Rouge. And at the front of it all, I have a feeling that Marc-Andre is hoping they keep having those scuffles so that he can try and get a little more breathing room over the crest of Radillon. Oh, it's looking very good for Nin this time.
Yes, it is. I think he's got a good run here in that Porsche. You can see Vorse getting a little bit scared going offline. Nin get a dart to the inside here as they go down into Lacombe. He's going to be careful not to get in front of Desjardins. He's got a nose ahead. Oh, they're going to come together.
Nin is off into the tire barrier at the side of the road. He's going to be able to get it going, but he'll fall to 18th in that one. Let's take another look. This is hard to call. Do you think he's pinching, or does he have right to claim the corner?
Little column A, little column B there, Joe. I would call that a racing incident. I think that may have been a hair more on Nin's side, but still a very tight line.
Wonder what kind of damage that did to each of them, as Vorse couldn't have gotten away completely clean on that one, hitting the corner of the car. Let's take a look at the BMW, see if we can see anything on our side.
Well, remember, this is the second time that Vorse has had a little bit of contact here. Not seeing a whole lot from it, so definitely some scuffing on the front, but nothing on the side.
I'm starting to wonder, unless Liberante has also managed to be very good at saving fuel, if he will only catch Cervantes towards the very end of the race. I'm looking at the comparison of their lap times, and let's see, 17.4. Okay, that was much quicker for the 34 that time, but it was still a 17.5 for Cervantes, only a 10th down. And remember, he's got 6 seconds to make up, so he's got to have a very quick pit stop, I think, to make up the majority of that gap if the pace is anything to go by.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So he's going to have to maybe be moving a little bit. He may be in conservation mode, but we'll have to see. He also doesn't have the benefit of the draft at this point, which may be cutting into that time.
Brett Barrett pits, Christie, Miller, Hotham. So yet more drivers looking for their pit stalls. Going to take their fuel, be on their way. Boy, still a bit of a race here between Vorse and Hotham. No, excuse me. This is, we're on Liberante right now. Apologies. This is Espina. Well, hey, credit to the number 20. After he got passed, he's done the best job of holding onto the back of that 34. Demers, not nearly as much. In fact, if you look in that rear view camera of Espina, all you see is the tiny speck of Alexis.
Yeah, very much so. Doing a very good job to pull away from Demers. And I frankly thought he wasn't going to be able to keep up to the back of Liberante like this, but that draft doing a little bit good for him. Liberante not looking exactly great through Fanys.
On Liberante, I might be a little bit worried that Paul could pull something tricky in the pit stop. So he's got to get a little bit closer, most likely. See DeWeese also pitting. Looks like Simkovic. Just heard Brian Hotham calling his pit exit. A surprisingly tricky pit exit. This isn't like the modern Grand Prix circuit where they come out on the exit of La Source. Is our leader Eric Luke pits. So does Antonino. Okay, so the leaders are calling the strategy now.
Yeah, as is, it looks like Trepanier, Almanar, Cervantes, Liberante, Espina, everybody except McLaughlin. Looks like they're coming in.
Okay. So it might be Modoff who is the man who can save fuel over in the pro category of the GT3s. And the AMs, Nick McLaughlin, able to get 1 extra lap out of it. This is Sumner here on screen.
Yeah, that's Sumner coming on through in that 709 machine.
No.
Excuse me, that's sorry, that's Eric Luke coming through in the 709 machine. That's my bad.
Yeah, Sumner was in the orange car. In fact, actually, I think Sumner's been sitting in the pit lane for quite some time getting repairs. So as we see that BMW hit his pit stall, it looks clean. He's at the very front, having been the one that took the pole position. Liberante starting from way far back gets to his pit stall almost as early. Looks like Brian Vorse able to get an extra lap. Quoke Nin as well.
Yeah, so that's 3 drivers that are able to hold out for another lap. I'll be interested to see with McLaughlin if that'll be able to help him pull in a little bit to Luke. That gap was hovering at about a second, so I've got to think McLaughlin was doing some fuel saving. We could be in for a little bit of a race as we get into the end. You see him coming into some lap traffic, though. That may hurt him a little bit.
Wasn't Almanar not too far behind Trepanier before these stops? Because right now it's 2.5 seconds. He seems to have lost a pretty good chunk.
Yeah, it really does. That may have been an issue of him coming down onto the lane with some slower cars in front of him. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to go back and check the replay.
This means that the 3 cars we're waiting on are McLaughlin, Vorse, and Nin only. Everybody else has stopped or is in the process of finishing their pit stops. The first one to come in to take the scheduled stop, Morales, is actually back in 12th, which is sadly a net loss for him. He started from 9th.
Yeah, so that's going to not be great for him, but there we see McLaughlin coming into the pits. Now, important to note, Eric, that right now it looks like Eric Luke is just now making his way through Fagnes.
Yeah, but it's such a long pit lane. That gives you an idea of just how long it takes to get through, because Luke should be able to easily pass him, and yet he's still got a number of corners yet to go. McLaughlin still coming down to the second half of the pit lane, and Vorse is in. Let's see if Nin also has to finally call it a day here. Yep, that's the end of his fuel limit.
All right, so that's everybody out and through. There is Eric Luke as he comes onto the main straightaway here, coming through La Source right now. McLaughlin's still listed as in the lead, but I don't know for how long.
So I think Luke coming around La Source pretty much confirms it. Oh, no, McLaughlin with a very short stop, a little more than a second quicker. Now Luke has better pace here. He's going to have momentum. McLaughlin will have track position, or will he? It's going to be close. He gained a lot of time, though. He could have the slipstream here. Is this enough? He sees that car getting smaller and smaller in his windscreen, and as the timing and scoring updates, he's within roughly 1 second.
So that's going to be enough to pull the draft. And as we said, Nick McLaughlin may have been saving fuel on that last run. So is this now where he goes pedal to the wall to try to take the lead?
See if he can. Let's go back to Liberante, because Espina got a great pit stop compared to race and is once again putting immense pressure on the 34. Liberante did cut down on the gap to Cervantes down to 4.7 seconds. So 1 second and some change that he has been able to close on Danny, but that's still not enough. He is going to have to really hustle in these final 8 laps, considering he was only catching up at about a 10th or 2 at a time. Let's see, 4 laps, maybe even only 3 laps left to go. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's going to be awfully close for him to do it, I have to say.
He'll need much better pace, I think, and we'll find it out on this lap, because now they finally get a full flying lap after the pit stops to see if he can do more than what he was before. But that's potentially as he's trying to play defense on Espina behind him, out of Fagnes and out into Stavolo. He's starting to gap it a little bit. It's about 0.8 of a second, so could be false alarms here, as the 20 was briefly clinging to the rear wing of that 34 and is now starting to lose out.
Yeah, not really able to hold on there at all. Looks like that space from Liberante, or that pace rather from Liberante, starting to pull away. Gap at about 0.7 of a second right there, so we may still get some draft, but yeah.
Good news for Trepanier is that Almanar also looking at Cervantes, getting close to the back of him. 7 minutes left to go. Remember, finish line is on this straightaway after the bus stop, not on the downhill where they started. So don't let that confuse you. It's a different start line and finish line at this layout of the circuit.
Indeed it is, but I think we're going to jump back here to P13. This is Matt Hilton and Nick Alexander in a little bit of a battle. Remember, Hilton on a recovery drive after that contact with Force.
Yeah, started from 10th, now back up to 14th. Neil Alexander up 5 spots from where he started. Out of La Source, Hilton looking pretty decent. He'll get at least something of a tow up the Kemmel Straight. The question is how much of one? Can he try and close it in with a better exit? Cars get very light here, and look how much of the track that Alexander was using. That cost him. Hilton is closing in to within 0.3 of a second, but then he stalls out, so that BMW doesn't go for it this time. Couldn't tell if it was a lift or if just the difference in top end.
Maybe a little bit of difference in top end there, Joe. That Porsche is known as a little bit faster, but a little bit squirrelier around some of the corners with the rear engine. But look at Hilton still closing in here. He may have a little bit more downforce in the car as well. May be able to close in through the twisty bits as they work their way down the hill.
Let's keep the cameras here, but in regards to Liberante trying to catch Cervantes, 2:17.9 for Danny. Liberante with a 2:17.5, but he's down to under 2 seconds. So actually, Race, how did he make up that time? There must have been, wonder if Cervantes got a slowdown penalty of some sort.
He must have, because Race is just absolutely on fire. Looks like the last lap, Race was only faster by about 0.4 of a second, so not enough to get that gap as far down as it is.
I'm trying to see here, and yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, he suddenly slowed on a straight line, so Cervantes cut the course a little bit too much, and now finds himself having to give up some of his advantage to race Liberante. In fact, now, you can even see him pretty well here as we look off the back of Danny.
Yeah, definitely coming up behind him quite quickly, but he's at 2.3 seconds, that gap. He's not going to have enough to pull the draft, so he's going to have to do this all on his own. And with only about 4 minutes to go, it's going to be tricky, not to mention the fact that Espina's still all over the back of Liberante.
Don't need to go to it, but Quoc Nin and Desjardins had it coming together in the bus stop. Both of them able to continue, but Marc-Andre had the worst of it between the pair of them. So continue to watch down into Rivage. Espina getting quite close to the back of Liberante that time. So we look off the gearbox now of the 34. I'm not going to deny, I am impressed that Race has gotten this far up the order. 7th place is not shabby, but you have to wonder what could have been. He's about 22 seconds off the leaders, much of that time probably given up in the battles that he had to have through the fields. Could he have been looking at a top 5, even a podium out there?
Very well could have been, but Joe, we got to check in on this battle for the lead. This thing may not be over yet.
Yeah, half a second faster last time for Nick McLaughlin. And he is on 2 wins this season, same as Liberante. If he gets a 3rd, oh boy, what a pull on the gap that's going to be for the number 62. In fact, down to 0.7 of a second as they cross the line. A 2:19.4. Luke having some issues there. That is way off the pace for him. McLaughlin with a 2:18.6, also somewhat off the pace. So neither one was perfect that lap, but Nick McLaughlin having lesser of mistakes.
I wonder if maybe Luke may have underfueled the car slightly, having to do some fuel saving, may have run wide at a different point. I'm not sure, but here comes that Ferrari working that gap down.
It's going to fill the slipstream. In fact, yeah, this pulls them to within 0.3 of a second now. As they come to the end of the Kemmel Straight, 0.2 of a second. Nick McLaughlin is indeed in the hunt. This is the closest he's been since pretty much the start of the race. Has never really been within striking distance since then, though he's held on to within a few seconds. We watch his onboard. Once again, shattering away to somebody in his ear, letting them know what's going on. Wonder if he's got a spotter. Is the crew chief helping him out today?
Maybe could be talking a little bit of fuel strategy. You see a little bit of a smile there. Ooh, a little bit of a run wide there through the first part of Pouhon. That'll cost him a 10th or 2 as he gets going.
So into Fanyes now. This is all about 3 seconds ahead of Antonino, who, if I recall, was pretty close to McLaughlin earlier on. Both of them taking a lot of inside curb there into Stavolo. Looks like Luke actually took it better as he pulls back ahead to about 0.5 of a second now.
Yeah, starting to pull ahead a little bit here, but remember he was able to close up a lot through that last thing. Is that a little bit of a touch of the brakes there up ahead for Luke? Ooh, big twitch coming through Blanchimont, a big run wide for McLaughlin. So both cars having a bit of trouble. I believe they will have 1 or 2 to go at the line.
No, it looks like 1 lap to go. We're down to 20 seconds left. Oh, and the wheel spin from Nick McLaughlin. Is he getting too desperate now? Is he pushing too hard to keep up with that 709?
He may be indeed. Big turn of the wheel there, trying to get it on through. They work their way down the hill at this point. McLaughlin hoping and praying he's going to be able to pull this off.
What a strange couple of races it has been for Eric Luke. Won the first round, had a decent finish in round 2, and then 2 DNFs in a row, and a did not start means that he's down in 14th. Here we go. Did he cut the course? I think he cut the course. Nick McLaughlin gonna easily get ahead of him.
Yes, he is. That is indeed a cut course penalty. You see the smile from Nick McLaughlin, but Eric Luke trying to put the pressure back on him here as much as possible as they work their way down the hill. Eric's
gonna be just as hungry, and he knows how to win in this series. Already taken the first one of the season, but the first 2 races, the top 5, showed a bit of a false dawn for that green and white BMW. Oh, off the apex, coming through Speaker's corner, and McLaughlin, who holds on to the position, almost thought he was going to hamper himself down here into Pouhon, but it looks like he limited the damage done.
Have the limited 4 now, but Luke's still looking hungry as they make the charge down the hill still. There's still that heavy braking zone as they go through Fanyes.
What does Eric have in him? Is he going to be aggressive into the bus stop? Will he get a good enough exit out of the Stavolo corners? We'll find out here. They come into the first apex. Luke right on him. He'll get a good slipstream at the very least. 0.2 behind him. This is going to get spicy for the win here in round 6. Both drivers having taken victories, but one's in the championship hunt and one is not. Luke has very little to lose here. He's got to make up a lot to try and get back into this championship. Does he make a desperate dive down into the bus stop chicane? Still 0.2 behind. He's not close enough as they break into the final corner. Nick McLaughlin manages to limit the mistakes compared to his rival, and that will give him the victory today at Spa-Francorchamps. Absolutely incredible run from Nick McLaughlin. John Antonino crossing the line behind them in 3rd to round out your podium as we focus back here on Almanar and Cervantes. So that battle for 4th. Almanar going to take that spot. Liberante got it down to 1.6 seconds, but it was not to be. Our championship leader will only do a 6th place finish here today, as behind them looks like Trepanier managing a P8. I think we got a battle for 13th here.
Indeed we do. This is Quackman coming up behind Neil Alexander, making their way into bus stop. Is Quack going to have a last-minute dive here? Doesn't look like it, but behind them, that's Matt Hilton going for it.
He wants those spots back, but he isn't there. Doesn't want to risk another bad mistake today. Nin from 30th up to 14th. Pretty good run from him. Christie barely ahead of Desjardins for 16th and 17th respectively. Larson and Hotham also line astern as they cross the finish line. Looks like only 24 drivers will finish on the lead lap here of our 33 starters. So that's going to take us to a quick break. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. Round 6 of the Precision Racing League GT3 Am Series had Nick McLaughlin take his 3rd win of the season, but he won't be in the points lead after this. He still has a little bit to go to catch up to both Demers and Liberante. Luke was the one that came home behind him P2 after starting on the pole, but a mistake late in the race proved up being extremely costly for him. It was Antonino who was 3rd and a distant 4th for Almanar back there. Cervantes behind him in 5th as Liberante, despite not managing to get a qualifying lap in, was able to climb up to 6th place. Espina was P7 as Trepanier finished in 8th. Then it's Demers who's going to lose a lot of ground both to Liberante and to McLaughlin. Not sure if they're going to swap positions. We'll look at that a little bit later. Morales finishes 10th after them.
In 11th, it was Brett Barrett, followed by Brian Vorse after that incident we saw earlier on. Neil Alexander was able to hold off Kwok Nin, and Matt Hilton on a bit of a recovery drive came home 15th. Lawson Christie was 16th, followed by Marc-Andre Desjardins and Baron Glover in 18th, with Jason Larson and Brian Hotham rounding out your top 10.
Last few on the lead lap was Deweese, Boschel, Barnett, Muirhead, and after that, Simkovic was our first driver, 1 lap down. From there, a lot of DNFs today. Miller, Luna, Hilton, Sumner, Huard, Marini, Kalin, and Lewis. Didn't really get to cover a lot of the stuff that happened towards the back. There was great running up front, including with Nick McLaughlin right at the very end. Nick, after the pit stop, you saw Eric go by. Did that give you that extra oomph mentally to try and run him down?
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, it was definitely good seeing Eric. I was really hoping to kind of come out in front of him with the amount of fuel I'd saved early in the race, but it was nice to be back in the draft, and I got lucky with a spinner and Puan kind of closed the gap, and then of course Eric and I are teammates, and he kind of pulled the multi-21 and gave us the win towards the end.
We thought that he maybe caught a slowdown penalty there at the end. So that takes away some of our built-up drama. Even still, 3rd win of the season. And like you said, there's some to make up to Liberante. With that sort of help from your teammate, do you see that gap being doable? You came in with about 23 back from race.
The gap's definitely doable. Hats off to Race. I was gutted for him. He missed his thing, but, I was kind of stoked secretly. Really good for the team points and driver championship, but the guy had the drive of his life, up 26 spots, I think it was. Well done, Race.
Yeah, I was impressed with that too. Heading off to the Red Bull Ring, can you make it win number 4 there? It's going to be a very different nature to this track.
I can certainly hope. I haven't done any laps of Red Bull though. I'll put lots of practice in this week and hope to talk to you guys again next week.
Looking forward to it. Certainly one of the newer tracks there. That was Nick McLaughlin, who won from the front row of the grid today. And I believe we've got Eric Luke with us. DJ's caught up with him.
Well, Eric, your teammate spoiled a little bit of our intrigue there by saying you let him by, but still a heck of a race between you two.
It was a very fun race. I enjoyed it. We were able to pull that gap pretty early. And from there, it was just kind of maintaining the pace and letting the race unfold from there.
Now, he was obviously able to go a lap longer than you. I mean, were you guys in communication with each other in terms of fuel strategy? Were you trying to run your own race out there?
As far as fuel goes, the Ferrari will get that extra lap of fuel, and we'll take a little bit less fuel at the pit stops. So we knew going into it that he was going to be a lap longer than me. What we didn't know is where he was going to come out of the pits in relation to me after he completed his stop.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, then I guess the next follow-up question for you is, looking at this long haul, going to Red Bull Ring next time, a lot of similarities to the first sort of sector of this track. Do you guys think you'll be able to do what you did here today?
I hope so. I like the Red Bull Ring. It's a very fun, challenging track. Not a whole lot of passing opportunities that I recall, but I'm thinking that we can try to do what we can to maximize Nick's points haul.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd say that is one of the best comments from a teammate that I've heard in a long time. Eric, anybody you want to thank for this second place tonight?
TQ Engineering, of course, as always, for putting a fantastic car underneath me. I had a one-off car sponsor today. It was Veridian Education Consultants. Please give them check them out at veridianeducation.com. And, of course, Apex Button Box. Can't forget them.
That was your second place finisher tonight, Eric Luke. And now Joe Peak is caught up with our third place finisher, John Antonino.
Indeed. John, not quite as thrilling as what we thought it was between the top two. You kind of hung around in the back, especially early in the race. It looked like you were at least keeping relative pace with them. What happened in the end that kept you from making up that time to try and fight for the win? Nope. Might be having a little bit of a microphone issue with you there, John. See if we can get this cleared up. We're hearing just little blips. We got a copy with you, John?
Yeah. Right.
Still, unfortunately, cutting out a little bit there for John Antonino. We'll try and get with him a little bit later. In the meantime, I think DJ has caught up with Race Liberante, who had quite the catch-up to make.
Well, Race, I guess I got to start where it was bad. Qualifying just looked like you couldn't get a lap together. What was going on, man?
Yeah, I had one good lap going together, and unfortunately, I just brushed the wall a little bit. We were going 3 wide coming out of one of the corners, and I just brushed one of the inside walls, so threw my lap away. I didn't know it was going to because it was contact time 0, but yeah, it did, and tried to get back out, throw another one down, and just ran out of time, unfortunately.
I feel you on that one, my friend. Well, then let's get to the good. Starting in the back and finishing 6th, you looked like you were absolutely on fire out there, just carving up and down. I mean, were you on full attack mode, or was there any sort of like, oh, let's just see what happens in you today?
Yeah, it was literally full attack mode. I mean, I was talking to Antonino before the start of the race. I said, I'll see you at the end. Just kind of joking, but I put everything out there. I didn't hesitate. If I could get to somebody's bumper, I was just going to try and send it every single time, and ended up working out okay. My goal was a top 5, so to end 6th, I'm still pretty happy with that, and really I just wanted to minimize the damage on the points, and just going to hit reset for next week.
Well, thank you for the transition. Speaking of that, it's another track that those runoffs can be a little bit trickier, obviously a little bit shorter around the Red Bull Ring, but is next week just kind of going to be a reset for you, or are you going to take any lessons from Spa here today to carry them on?
Yeah, I just never hit the setup right for this track. You know, I could lay a lap down, but, you know, I may get an off track or something like that. So, you know, I never really got comfortable this week at this track. So I'm going to work really hard next week on the track there. It's somewhat, you know, it's obviously not the same, but it's somewhat similar to this. There's some tight corners and obviously some high speed and long corners, which I've struggled with in the BMW. So I'm going to go to the drawing board and just try and do the best I can during the week and see what we got next week. But yeah, totally hit and reset and going to try again.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, Race. Anybody you'd like to thank out here for this charge?
Absolutely. I'd love to give it up to the whole team at Delta Sport. Congratulations to my teammate John Antonino, and all of our sponsors, Extreme Sim Racing, Race Factory, Get Stuck, Driven, Texas, Move Up Lynchburg, and the rest of the sponsors for helping us out. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Race. That was your 6th place finisher out here, Race Liberante. Joe?
And that's going to close us up after our interviews with some big thank yous to our sponsors, which includes ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. Also, RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. And ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. As well as SIMMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Finally, a big thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. There's her Bandcamp if you want to check out more of her awesome work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Also, please check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're down there so you don't miss a moment, because as we said, next week is going to be at the Red Bull Ring, August 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. In about an hour's time, the Flying Husky Racing Series is back at Donington. That'll be at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.